Studying the art and iconography of living teachers, especially living teachers of the distant past, can really pose quite a challenge. If we take, for example, the teacher Marpa Chokyi Lodro, the founder of the Marpa Kagyu, what's called Marpa Kagyu, of Tibetan Buddhism, we really have to look at a number of different things, study topics, in order to really get an understanding of how this person is depicted. Who this person is a matter of literature and a matter of biography, and that we can find. But representations are not always so easy to identify, especially if it's a painting or a sculpture, if there are no inscriptions. Also, there are many, many changes and differences that happened over the centuries. So really what we have to do initially is we have to identify what we think are possibly depictions or images of Marpa. So we have to really look at the earliest examples first, and then we have to divide those earliest examples by medium. We have to divide them by painting, scrollwork, or mural, and then we have to look at sculpture separately. Then we have to look at the iconography. And with the iconography, we have three main points. We have gesture, attribute, and hairstyle. With gesture, we find with the early paintings, with early art, Marpa is primarily in either a teaching gesture or a meditation gesture. It's really only in the late art and the art that has continued from the 17th, 18th century up to the present, where Marpa is depicted with the two hands placed across the knees. In terms of attributes, in the early art, he can be holding a Vajran bell. Then in a kind of the middle period, so maybe the 15th, 16th, 17th century, then he's holding a skull cup in the left hand. And then in the last few centuries, he has the two hands across the knees again, so he's not holding any attributes. In terms of hairstyle, for early works, both painting and sculpture, we find that Marpa is depicted with very long hair. In more of the middle period, we find he's depicted with curly hair, and then in the later period, especially from the time of Situ Pension in the 18th century, we find that Marpa is depicted with a cropped hair length, almost a shaved head with just a short mane on top. Now, of course, there's going to be variations of iconography, and there's going to be variations based on style, whether something is more of a Western Tibet, Central Tibet, Eastern Tibet, or even a difference between Amdo and Kam. There can be a difference as well. Then we have context. Context relates to how is Marpa being depicted. Is he being depicted as a single painting, or is he part of a set of paintings? Is he a single sculpture or part of a set of sculptures? So what is the context, and what is the context in relation to the other figures in the lineage or whatnot? Then we have, really finally, we can talk about confusions. Now, the confusions really do relate to the iconography, and they relate primarily to the hairstyle, because we have two figures from the Sakya tradition, Sonam Semo and Trokpa Gyaltsen, who also can be depicted with curly hair, similar to Marpa during that middle period of 15th, 16th, 17th century, when he can be seen to have curly hair. So these are really the main study points. Now, many of these points, of course, apply to many, many other teachers, but a key factor here, which I actually haven't mentioned yet, is that Marpa is a layman. He's a lay figure. And so, and the two confusions, the two figures that can be confused for Marpa, Sonam Semo and Trokpa Gyaltsen, among others, are also lay persons, depicted with hair in different forms, long, curly, cropped. Or later in life balding, even as we see with the fifth Dalai Lama. Early in life he's shown with a full head of hair, although short, but then later in life he's shown with a bald top of the head and forehead. So this is just a just sort of a brief introduction to Marpa and how we look at early portraiture and iconography that develops out of this early portraiture. So you can press like, you can press subscribe, you can join HAR on Patreon, you can make a donation on the homepage of Himalayan Art Resources.